you know, for years, many in Washington have promised to tackle some of the biggest challenges facing our nation, only to fall short. But with the Inflation Reduction Act, the Democratic-led Senate is delivering historic climate change legislation. We're delivering lower prices on prescription drugs. We're delivering lower energy costs, including your electric bill going down. And we're delivering on deficit reduction, as well as tax fairness. This is a very, very, very big deal. I'm pleased that we have reached an agreement on inflation reduction, on the Inflation Reduction Act, and I believe that this will, let me say that again. I'm pleased we have reached an agreement on the Inflation Reduction Act that I believe will receive the support of the entire Senate Democratic Conference. I've had many productive discussions with every member of our caucus over the last few days, and we've addressed a number of important issues that they have raised. Make no mistake, the agreement preserves the core components of the Inflation Reduction Act, including reducing prescription drug costs, fighting climate change, closing tax loopholes exploited by big corporations and the wealthy, and reducing the deficit. We're now one step closer to enacting this historic legislation into law. With this bill, we're going to put our country on track to meet the climate goals we need to preserve for our planet, for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. With this bill, we're going to use the purchasing power of Medicare to ensure America's seniors have affordable access to life-saving medicines they need. The anguish of people having to pay, not being able to pay for medicines that may save their lives will be greatly reduced. And with this bill, we are going to deliver our promise to close loopholes exploited by big corporations and the wealthy. Put simply, this legislation will save lives, create jobs, reduce costs, and reduce inflation. Just what the American people want, and that's why the American people are on our side. The American people know we've been pushing these priorities, and they overwhelmingly support what Democrats are doing. A recent Navigator poll shows 65% of Americans approve of our plan to lower drug prices, keep premiums low, and invest in clean energy. A Morning Consult poll found that over 70% of Americans, 70%, support letting Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices, which our plan will do. And another group, Data for Progress, found the Inflation Reduction Act had a net approval of 51 points. Large percentages of Republicans out in the country support this bill and its provisions. It's not hard to understand why Americans feel this way. Democrats are delivering for them. We're prioritizing the middle class, working families, those struggling to get to the middle class, instead of what Republicans do, prioritize those at the very top. Now, Republicans are scraping the bottom of the barrel for justification to oppose this bill. First, they said it would increase inflation. That was debunked by expert after expert. Then they said it would increase taxes. That was also proven false. Now, actually, top Republicans are admitting it won't raise tax rates for middle-class families. They can't even seem to lay a glove on this. They don't know what to do. Then they said it would hurt job growth, and now we know this bill will create 9 million new jobs. So at its core, the Inflation Reduction Act is a life-saving, job-creating, cost-reducing bill. It's what the American people want. It's what the country so desperately needs. And it's what Democrats will deliver on in the coming days. The Senate is on track to begin consideration of the bill tomorrow. I want to thank the Office of the Parliamentarian and all of the committee staff on both sides of the aisle for their tireless work on the birdbath process, which is underway today. As most of you know, we didn't hold session today simply because we wanted the parliamentarian to be able to spend full time going through the birdbath. The parliamentarian and her team have dedicated long hours on this legislation, and they're working through the day to make sure the Senate's ready to act. Now, we're confident that at the end of the day, we will have preserved the core components of the Inflation Reduction Act. As I've said before, over and over again, nobody should expect legislation of this magnitude to be easy, but we have never given up. As I've told some of you, my father passed away in November, but he's still with me, and he taught me a lesson that stayed with me, and that is, if you're doing the right thing and you persist, God will reward you and you will succeed. We're going to keep working until we get the job done. Okay? We'll take questions. Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
You say that Republicans have not been able to lay a glove on this bill, but Republicans were here at this lectern about an hour ago, and they talked about amendments that they are going to offer, make people take tough votes. That's not going to damage politically some of your members or force them to take.
When we pass this legislation, that will dominate, and these amendments, Votorama legislation amendments, will be dwarfed by that we're actually helping the American people instead of just playing political games.
Senator Schumer, with Senator Sinema now on board, do you anticipate it smooth sailing from here on out?
Look, they're going to do lots of amendments. We don't know what else they will do, but I am, as I said, I believe we will have 50 votes to pass this legislation at the end of the day. Yes.
Senator Schumer, can you offer specifics about what, besides the carried interest loophole, has been taken out or changed to reach this agreement with Senator Sinema? And then what do you say to progressives who are looking at, they lost the carried interest loophole provision, it's less money, that this is not what they thought it was going to be at the beginning of the
Okay, let me say a couple of things here. Number one, I believe strongly in the carried interest loophole. I have voted for it. I've pushed for it. I pushed for it to be in this bill. Senator Sinema said she would not vote for the bill, not even move to proceed unless we took it out, so we had no choice. The only other real change here is there is in the $313 billion that we gained from closing corporate tax loopholes, the corporate so-called minimum tax. A piece was taken out, but $258 billion of that remains. So the vast majority remains. But what we added is something that excites me and I think excites all Democrats and particularly progressives. We're adding in an excise tax on stock buybacks that will bring in $74 billion. By way of contrast, the carried interest loophole, as it was phrased, and we took the exact language the House had, was a $14 billion income. This is $74 billion, 5 times. And I hate stock buybacks. I think they are one of the most self-serving things that corporate America does. Instead of investing in workers and in training and in research and in equipment, they don't do a thing to make their company better, and they artificially raise the stock price by just reducing the number of shares. They're despicable. I'd like to abolish them. In fact, Sanders and I had legislation to do that. But to put this excise tax on, when I spoke to a good number of progressive legislators, they were excited about it. Yes?
When's the effective date for that stock buyback? If you do it at the end of the year,
I'll have to get you back on the date. I'll have to get you back. I don't know the exact date. Yes?
Budget model said the same thing. If there's a chance that these people are right, is now the right time to do this, considering how high
they're wrong. The overwhelming majority of people. We just had Secretary Paulson, Republican Treasury Secretary, saying it's reducing inflation. We had 7 Nobel laureates say they're going to reduce inflation. I don't know who that list was, but the overwhelming majority of those who have looked at this, Mark Zandi, Republican economist, have said it will reduce inflation, and it's obvious that it will. You're cutting prescription drug costs. We're cutting energy costs, and we are actually increasing. We're spending $300 billion on reducing the deficit. So it's plain as it's as plain as the nose on your face that this will reduce inflation. Go ahead. Well, we don't know. I mean, we're going to try to get it done as quickly as we can. But there are things that some of our Republican colleagues can demand that would take time that we're not sure they'll do or not. Okay? Last one.
Senator Graham just essentially threatened a continuing resolution saying that Democrats wouldn't get 60 votes for a political payback scheme connected to the reconciliation bill.
Yeah, it's a long time. It's a long time away.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
also-
thank you.